Good morning. I'm Robert Weissman with Essential Information. Thank you for coming to this all-day panel on Beyond the Financial Meltdown. The idea for this got going not very long ago. I sent an email to Bob Kuttner saying we were thinking about having a symposium at the National Press Club on January 9th to talk about financial re-regulation. And he sent me an email back within about 30 seconds saying, that's kind of funny. We were thinking about having a symposium on financial re-regulation at the National Press Club on January 9th. So we said, all right, let's figure out how we can do this together. But the reason I think that a bunch of different people were thinking about the need for this is a shared sense that we have seen the most remarkable meltdown of the financial system, a complete collapse brought on by Wall Street itself, so that Wall Street had free rein for at least a decade and not only harmed the public and the rest of us, but destroyed their own system and destroyed their own firms. It's really a remarkable circumstance. Yet the public debate about the policy response is trailing far beyond the reality that we're being pounded with every day in the newspaper. So the purpose of this conference is to try to help engage a conversation and change the parameters of the policy debate to think about how we should appropriately, realistically, based on our recent relearned understandings about unregulated finance, how we should appropriately regulate, control finance, and direct it to serve social purposes, which may yield profits, but can't be undertaken solely for the pursuit of short-term profit without regard to social consequences. And hopefully we will be able to have a collective conversation about this as the day unfolds. There is a logic to the agenda, which we'll depart from a little bit, at least the agenda, if not the logic. The morning sessions intend to talk about the problem and framing an analysis of what went wrong. In the afternoon, we delve a little bit more into remedies, and of course we'll bleed back and forth between those two things. Logistic-wise, things are pretty straightforward. We do have lunch available for people. You should have indicated when you came in if you plan to stay for lunch so we can make sure we have a proper head count. There's a variety of material in the back at both the tables you might want to pick up and check out. And I would just say it's been this discussion has been this day has been put together on really short notice. It's been quite a pleasure to work with the partners at Demos and the Consumer Education Foundation. And I think we're very hopeful that this can be part of a conversation that we all take part in to really broaden the debate and think seriously about how we respond to this extraordinary circumstance in which the players who've destroyed the system are still exercising far too much control over the debate and how we can change it. And with that, a few remarks from Miles Rappaport of Demos, and then he'll lead straight into the first panel.
Thank you, Rob, and I want to thank all of you for coming. I'm Miles Rappaport, the president of Demos, and on behalf of the organization, I want to welcome you to what I think will be a very, very important day of discussion. Demos, for those of you who may not know us, is a New York-based public policy research and advocacy center dedicated to advancing three sort of fundamental values in our public debate that we think are the cornerstone of America's highest democratic ideals, and that is economic justice and the widest sharing of America's prosperity, and we hope to keep it that way. The expansion of democratic participation and working towards having as vibrant and as inclusive and as engaged in democracy as we can, and the restoration of a robust role for the public sector in protecting the common good. We were founded in 2000 at a kind of a time when the ascendancy of the kind of free market fundamentalism and notion that deregulation was always better, that markets would always work to the best, seemed solidly entrenched as the reigning assumptions of American public life. 8 years later, we're in a very, very different spot. And I think that what we now have a responsibility to do, our roles, I think all of our roles, change a little bit to try to sort of think forward and think about what needs to be done in order to compensate for the wreckage that we have seen in so many areas of our public life. One quick comment, and that is that Demos was founded by Charles Halpern, who was the president of the Nathan Cummings Foundation at the time. And in honor of our founder, we have inaugurated the Charles Halpern Seminar on New Visions for America. And we are very happy that with the collaboration of Essential Information and the Consumer Education Fund, today's event is also the second Charles Halpern Fund, and I think he will be extremely proud of the output of today's conference. So I think there are, I think today's conference will explore, in particular, the ways in which an unregulated financial sector or a deregulated financial sector or an inadequately regulated financial sector has had serious negative consequences. I think in the old ideas that are now, I think, passing from the stage, government ought to step back, let the sector control itself, have finance lead the economy, have the finance sector set the terms for the economy. And I think those days are finished, but the question is, what is the character of regulation? What is the character of how the intersection of finance, the real economy, and the common good can intersect in a way that services and serves society in the best way? Along with our partners, Essential Information, Rob, thank you very much, and the Consumer Education Fund, I think we've put together a really good set of panels for today that I think will, as Rob said, go from kind of the basics of this morning's panel of saying what ought the role and relationship of the finance sector and Main Street be with each other, and then move into a much more detailed look at what we can do in terms of regulation. This morning's panel, I'm happy to introduce, are three people who know a lot about this field. Bob Kuttner, who I am proud to say, in addition to being the founding co-editor of the American Prospect magazine, is a distinguished senior fellow at Demos. Served on the Senate Banking Committee, researched the financial sector in great detail when he was the author of the Community Reinvestment Act, has served as a superb economic journalist for many years, both with the American Prospect, the Boston Globe, Business Week, you name it. He has written 6 books. One was called Everything for Sale, The Limits of the Market, which was a prescient book from 1996, do I remember it right? 1997. And his recent book, written in September, called Obama's Challenge, America's Economic Crisis and the Role of a Transformative Presidency, was, I think, another prescient piece of work. So Bob's going to start us off. Second panelist will be Damon Silvers, who is the Associate General Counsel of the AFL-CIO, has been one of the leading experts from the labor movement and from the public purpose sector in general. He now serves, so in addition to being the Associate General Counsel, he now serves as the Deputy Chair of the Congressional Oversight Board for the TARP, jointly appointed by Senator Reid and Speaker Pelosi. And lastly, Harvey Rosenfield, who is, I think, well known as a hero of the sensible regulation forces in America, is one of the nation's leading consumer advocates coming out of California. He authored Proposition 103, a ballot measure that imposed the toughest regulations on insurance companies of any state, and was way ahead of his time in recognizing the dangers of the deregulation of California's electric industry. So we got 3 people who know much whereof they speak, and it pleases me to introduce first. We'll go in the order in which they're sitting.